What's good, you guys? It's Lifestyle from lifestyledidit.com, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you two ways to get your final mixes and masters to be louder. That is going to be by limiting and clipping. The difference between the two is clipping abruptly stops the signal from going over zero and it just chops it off completely, kind of saws off the waveform, as you could see right here. Limiting is more controlled, kind of gentle attenuation. It's like a compressor on steroids that just backs it off from hitting zero, but it isn't necessarily completely lopping off the waveform like clipping is. So it kind of depends what you want your master to sound like. If you want it to be very punchy and it's a very punchy beat, you might go more towards clipping. And if you want just the normal loudness out of your track, you're probably going to lean towards limiting. It really depends. Some people literally just clip all their masters and some people limit all their masters. It really depends what you like, and it's more of a preference, but I'm going to show you both of those today. Let's get into it. All right, so the first little thing I want to tell you to do is put an EQ on your master track and just get rid of everything under 20 hertz. And the reason is because our ears aren't going to hear under 20 hertz. Just by putting a low cut around 20 hertz, it actually will bring more clarity to your mix and you'll be able to push it more, because the limiter and the clipper aren't necessarily going to have to focus on those very low frequencies down there. Since we don't hear it, the computer and the technology obviously still picks it up, but if we don't hear it, we don't need it there. And you could read this in many places, and many mastering engineers do this. You just take out what we can't hear and it lets the speakers not focus on it, and it also lets obviously the software not focus on it anymore, and it kind of clears it out and allows us to bring up the volume even a little bit more. So that's one of the first things that I always put on my master, is I just let 20 hertz and under not exist anymore, and then I go into the two steps we're about to do. All right, so I brought up this beat I recently made, and you'll see on my master that I have headroom. So the beat's mixed, and now it's ready for some type of mastering to happen. In this video, I'm literally only going to show you how to get it louder, but you'll see we have about 3 dB of headroom. So I have meters pulled up right here at the end to show you the RMS of the track and, you know, the actual peak. But I want to show you just simple 2 ways to get your mixes and your masters louder. So we're going to go over here and we're going to bring up just a quick limiter. So we'll use L1 by waves. And a limiter is very easy to use. You have threshold, out ceiling, and some of them have release. Like over here you see the release. You could either put on auto release or you could set the release yourself. Limiters like FabFilter have attack and different styles, but most limiters you're going to have basically about maybe 2 to 3 things. You're definitely going to have threshold, out ceiling, and then you might have a release knob. We'll go ahead and leave the release on auto for this. So over here we have threshold and we have the out ceiling. When we pull the threshold down, that is telling the limiter, just like a compressor, when to turn on and when to do what it needs to do. So you'll see, like I said, we're around maybe negative 2.4 at max. If our threshold's nowhere near that, the limiter's not going to do anything. So easily on your master, when you start to pull down the threshold, it's going to get louder. And then the out ceiling is the final output of it. It's not going to go over zero, but most people set their out ceiling to negative 0.2 or negative 0.3, because when you render to MP3, dithering happens. You can read into that, and sometimes there's spikes and it goes over zero. Are we going to hear that? Not necessarily, but it is always good rule of thumb to just put it to negative 0.1 at least, or 0.2. So you'll see this link knob, and what that's going to do, which is cool, is link them together. So as the beat's being limited with the threshold, the out ceiling is going down as well. So let me show you what happens if you don't link them. If we start to pull down the threshold, it's getting louder, right? It's doing what it's supposed to. Over here you see our gain reduction. But since it's getting louder, we're not going to really be able to hear what it's doing. So when we link them together and the out ceiling goes down, check this out. Same volume, right? But now we can actually hear what it's doing, and then we could take our out ceiling and bring it up at the end. So if we go all the way down here and we're doing 10 dB, 11 dB of gain reduction, you'll see it sounds really bad, but it's still the same volume, and that's what we need, because we need to actually hear what the limiter is doing. So let's go over here and just bring this down. I'm going to shoot for around 3 to 4 dB of gain reduction, and when I start to hear the kick get soft, I'm going to back it off, and that's where I'll have it set. And you can watch the gain reduction right over here. So probably about a consistent 3 to 4 dB of gain reduction, maybe with peaks around 5 or 6. It really depends. I'm just going to use my ears and hear when that kick starts to go a little bit soft. And the cool thing is when you have it linked, since it's the same volume, you can flip on and off and really hear what the limiter is doing. Alright, so to me it's sounding pretty good. No matter what, you're going to lose a little bit of punch because you are compressing and limiting transient, so it's going to get a bit softer. But I'm going to show you what it does if it's over compressed. Now the kick really doesn't exist, so around 7, -7 was sounding good. So for the outceiling, all we need to do literally now is bring it up to what I said, about -0.2, 0.3. And for my RMS on beats and masters, I usually shoot for around -10 to -8. So if I go over here and turn this to RMS, you're going to see what our RMS is for the track. So we're around 8 to 10, and that's cool with me, and it sounds good. So the next thing I'm going to show you is clipping. Real quick before we get into clipping, let's do a before and after of the volume without the limiter. Next, we're going to go into clipping. So let's go over here and let's go with JST clip first. Then we'll use soft clipper. We'll use a native one, but let's go ahead and just use JST clip because this one is very aggressive and I kind of want to show you what this does. So by default, it's not going to let the signal go over 0, but it is going to push it into 0 and literally start to lop off and saw off our signal literally. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to start pushing this input in, and you're going to hear what it does. Let's start to push it. Starting to sound bad. That kick is too much, especially for this beat. Alright, that doesn't sound too bad. Let's check our RMS. Relatively close to what the limiter was doing. We could push this a little bit more, but I necessarily don't want to. But the cool thing with this JST clip is it has a trim knob and it has a mix knob and a 2x multiplier. So if I wanted to make this extreme and just really distort the signal, but then only mix it in a little bit, so like this. Let me show you what it sounds like at 100. It's gonna sound really bad. Right? But it gives us that punch. So if we only wanted a tiny bit of that and kind of parallel it in, we could do that and then put a limiter on after that, and now we have like a little bit of punch added to the track and distortion, and then we add the limiter to bring our level up because we're still under 0, right? But to make it simple, we'll just bring it to 100%, and like I said, we pushed this until it started to sound bad, and then we backed it off. But for those really hard trap beats where you want that kick to sound disgusting, you could push a clipper and get that nastiness since it's literally chopping off the signal. Then the last one we're going to do is the soft clipper. So this will be very easy. You have your threshold and post. I like to just keep it at default and use an EQ to boost volume into it, or any plugin. It's just a habit of mine. You could use the plugin by itself, but I don't know why this just became a habit. So I'm not using this parametric EQ for anything else but the volume knob before the soft clipper, and I don't know, I just enjoy doing it. And another thing is if I turn the soft clipper off, I can kind of see how much I'm going over 0 before I turn the clipper on, so it kind of gives me an idea of how much reduction's happening. So I'm going to have the soft clipper off, and I'm going to start to push volume in. Over here I could see I'm at about 3 or 4, right? I'm going 3 or 4 over 0, so I know it's gonna have to do about 3 or 4 gain reduction. So I'm gonna turn the soft clipper on, and now we'll be right under 0. So if we push it a little bit more, doesn't sound bad, but for me it's just hitting the signal a little too hard for this beat, and I don't want this beat's kick to sound distorted. I don't like it on this beat. On other beats I would love it. I'd probably push it way more because I want that aggression, and that's a reason you would reach for a clipper instead of a limiter, so you can get that aggression. But this sounds cool to me, so let's go ahead and check our RMS again. actually see we're a little bit louder than the other one, so maybe we can bring it back down. Went a little too crazy. So those are two cool ways. We actually did three, but two ways, limiting and clipping, that you could use to get your masters and your mixes louder. I keep saying masters and mixes because maybe you're just mixing the beat and you just want to have it loud when you send it out, or you're not mastering the beat, but this can be implemented either way. Let's say you just want to send your mix to a friend to listen to. You could use this obviously to get it up to volume, right? And in the mastering stage, you would do the same thing at the end of the chain to get your loudness up to normal listening volume. All right, so today's video is real quick. I hope this helped you guys out. If it did, leave a thumbs up. You guys can follow me on all social medias at Lifestyle Did It. Make sure to hit my site, lifestyledidit.com, for everything else. Always make sure your low end is in check. If you can't get a mix as loud as you think it is, it's 90% of the time going to be the leveling and the low end. You probably have too much going on down there, so make sure to control that, focus on the low end, and you'll be able to get your mixes louder. Other than that, subscribe to your boy, push notifications. Thanks.